The ACEC Research Institute recently released the groundbreaking 2020 Engineering Industry Profile. Now, this study provides the most comprehensive view we have ever seen for the entire engineering, architectural, and related services sectors. We're talking 3% of all U.S. jobs, $386 billion in revenue, nearly $45 billion in tax dollars, and $88,000 a year average salary, and so much more. The study also benchmarks state-level activities. Now take the opportunity to download your free copy today. Get the 2020 Engineering Industry Profile by visiting acecresearchinstitute.org. Download your copy today. Welcome to the ACEC Government Affairs Update for January 22nd, 2021. And what a week it has been. It's an inaugural week. It's also our guest's birthday today. Ed Mortimer, Vice President, Transportation and Infrastructure for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And we have Ed on to talk about two things, really the outlook from the Chamber's perspective for the Biden administration and what seems to be fairly smooth sailing with Pete Buttigieg at this week's Senate Commerce confirmation hearing. And then also an initiative that the Chamber is leading, which ACEC has signed on to, which is an infrastructure campaign to build by the 4th. So Ed, happy birthday and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeff. Good to be with you and hope everyone's healthy and staying safe.
Yeah, we are, it's been a crazy month. And I think that we're all gearing up and, earlier this week with the transition of power, finally it happened. And, it's a new day in Washington. And how's the Chamber looking at the incoming, or now the new Biden administration, especially on infrastructure? A lot of opportunity there.
Absolutely. I think, with the transfer of power, which we are very glad was done safely after what happened earlier in the month. I think we joined ACEC and many others in expressing our concern about and making sure that we have a peaceful transition of power that has occurred. And we look forward to now working with the new administration and a new Congress with some new faces. But the problems have not gone away. And we feel very optimistic that this is an opportunity to kind of bring people back together on an issue that is critical to our country, critical to American business. And obviously, the engineers of ACEC are the ones that are going to help design an infrastructure that's 21st century. And so we feel like we have this once in a generational opportunity to not just fix the infrastructure we currently have, but to modernize it, to use the innovation and technology of the engineering industry to lead kind of the legacy that Dwight Eisenhower left with the interstate highway system, with Teddy Roosevelt with the inland waterways. And so we're very optimistic that the tone was set properly, we think, by President Biden. Republicans have also expressed a willingness to sit down and finally get to some serious discussions on infrastructure. You talked in your opening about the confirmation hearing of the Secretary of Transportation designate, Pete Buttigieg, which we along with ACEC supported his nomination. We may not agree with him on every issue, but he seems to have an energy, a passion, and a willingness to listen. That we think all of those skills are going to be very necessary as they work with the Congress to put together this infrastructure bill. And so we're pushing for his prompt confirmation by the Senate, and hopefully he can get to work soon. There are about 30 other people that the Biden administration announced yesterday that are going to join the DOT on a temporary basis until some of the other ones can get confirmed. So they seem to be off to a good start. And we at the Chamber have decided to launch a new effort to build upon a lot of the efforts that ACEC and its members have been engaged with the Chamber on for many years. And it's to grow the constituent base of support for infrastructure modernization. So of course, we're going to have the Transportation Construction Coalition, your industry, but we're trying to get the environmental community, some of our clean energy partners, some of the non-traditional folks to kind of step up and say, look, enough talk, it's time for action.
Yeah.
And so our Build by the July 4th campaign, which ACEC joined, is really that effort to try to show the broad support for infrastructure. This isn't just the transportation groups. This is a broad cross section of environmental, labor, other organizations who are saying it's time for action. Now, we're all going to disagree on the details of what that actually means, and we're all going to have policy discussions. But again, just trying to continue the drumbeat, knowing that the new president, the new Congress have a lot of things going on. Obviously, COVID and getting through this pandemic is priority number one. Getting the vaccine out to people in a more efficient manner, trying to get the economy moving. And that's where we really see infrastructure playing out. And, President Biden believes that he's going to announce his recovery plan for the economy, which will include infrastructure at the State of the Union address, which hopefully will happen in early February. So
Yeah.
we believe there's opportunity. I know a lot of your members have been very engaged on this issue, and we ask you to continue those efforts because I like to use a football analogy, Jeff. We're in the red zone. We've taken the ball down the field over the last several years, but we're getting close to getting a touchdown. So we just got to push it over the goal line, and we have that opportunity now.
Yeah, there's been a lot of positive movement because you have first, of course, President Biden, who has mentioned infrastructure and pointedly said that it's time to stop talking and it's time to start building, which is good to hear. And then you also have Polly Trottenberg, who's been nominated as Deputy Secretary at DOT, who's a known quantity to us and especially our group at ACEC New York. And she's, a former DOT under the Obama administration. She worked at DOT and she's been an MTA up in New York. And she's a known quantity to us, and she seems to be someone who would be very focused on getting things done. There also seems to be something that we talked about in a previous update, which is there's that natural, it was talked about during the inauguration that President Biden is a son of the Senate. And a lot of those relationships that he built over decades in that chamber are going to pay off because the relationships he has with the incoming chairman and even with some of the ranking members now with the flip in power, knowing how the chamber works, knowing how the institution works, and having those institutional relationships is going to help get infrastructure across the line easier than really we've had it positioned beforehand. I mean, from your perspective, kind of in the culture of the Hill, we talk a lot about Infrastructure Week, and it kept on being talked about last year. What's your sense on the ease of of some kind of vehicle, getting moved in either of the chambers and seeing it, brought to a vote?
So I think the opportunity is great, but we can't sit and let them just do what they do. We as outside stakeholders have to keep their feet to the fire. We have to remind them the jobs that are created, the opportunities that can be had. I look at things like the Brent Spence Bridge that connects Connecticut and Ohio. They've been trying to get that done for 20 years. They just had an incident on it a couple of months ago. They had to shut it down for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's unacceptable. So we have to figure out some solutions to those problems. And there's an old saying, a former chairman of the House Transportation Committee, Bud Schuster of Pennsylvania, used to say, there is no Republican road, there's no Democrat bridge. And so obviously we've been through a very tumultuous period in our country's history. We believe that an issue that could bring folks back together and get them out of their partisan foxholes,
Mm-hmm.
and bring them to the table and say, look, let's come to some compromise solutions to benefit every single American. Infrastructure is that issue.
Yeah.
But what I want folks to walk away with from this conversation is we can't take it for granted for our lawmakers just to do the right thing. We have to continue to push. We have to continue to advocate. We need to have our voice heard, because those who scream loudest are heard. And so this is not an opportunity to put your foot off the gas pedal. We actually need to redouble down and we got to sprint here. This is the year to get something done. If we're not able to get a large infrastructure bill done this year, 2022 is an election year. We know what election years are like. They've gotten worse and worse. So we really look at it as got a 1-year window here to really try to get something substantial accomplished. And
Yeah,
so
and
we're
I think
committed to working with you on that.
yeah, I think the expanding the tent with the Build by the Fourth initiative is important because we talk about infrastructure and we always focus on roads, we focus on bridges, but then you look at, I mean, you can say that there's that talk about okay, infrastructure and then critical infrastructure. Well, I would say that all infrastructure is critical, no matter what you're talking about. If it's broadband, if it's energy distribution or transmission, or if it's like you said, building a road or designing a road to improve existing issues of efficiency. Yeah, one of the things that we look at from an industry is if you're coming out of COVID and you're looking at opportunities, especially in the private market as well, there are a significant number of buildings that need to be retrofitted. There are significant design challenges in dealing with a post-COVID workplace, building density. How are things going to be organized from an office perspective? All of that work is going to generate a lot of economic activity, and it's going to help the economy get back to where it was before the pandemic. ACEC Research Institute, which is our kind of our arm of researchers and economists, they're coming out with some research. They just did an industry profile. I mean, we combined, if you look at the entire AE sector, the engineering, architecture, and related services, combined is 3 million indirect jobs that constitutes about 3% of all US jobs. It's a significant amount of employment, and the tax base that actually is produced through all that work. I mean, we're talking about $44.7 billion in tax revenue from, really local all the way up to state, the federal. And that's a significant amount of activity. We'll be coming out with another report pretty soon that really shows the economic impact of direct and indirect, both on employment, jobs, and income that the entire sector has. So investing now in infrastructure, goes beyond that road. It goes to downstream impacts to the community. If you improve the infrastructure, you encourage economic development, which allows more businesses to open, which creates more opportunities for employment, which means that the economy in general is going to improve. And the investments that you make also can have an environmental impact because we want to build and design more resilient and sustainable infrastructure. So having those groups come together under one banner makes a lot of sense. We've posted a lot of the messages up on social media. And yes, I encourage our members and our audience listening, like you said, Ed, now is not the time to take the foot off the gas. We can't take the honeymoon period for granted. You have your members of Congress. If they're in Washington, meet with them virtually. If they're in their home districts, try to stop by if they're available. Reach out to them, contact them, because now's the time to really put the pressure on.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I mean, infrastructure is something we all take for granted. Usually we only hear people complain about it when it's not working. So we join you in that effort that it has to be broad, systemic, and we need to modernize. We know engineers have the innovation and technology to do this. We just need to have the vision and the investment to make it happen. And we at the chamber and the business community are committed to work with anyone who's willing to say, enough is enough. Let's not accept mediocrity in our infrastructure. It's time to modernize, and we're willing to sit down and try to come up with some bipartisan solutions. Because at the end of the day, that could really lead to long-term economic growth. It could lead to improved quality of life for every American. And again, let's be honest, some of our infrastructure that was built 50 to 100 years ago disadvantaged certain ethnic groups.
Yeah.
We have an opportunity to right some of the wrongs from the past and build a 21st century system that our nation would benefit from for decades to come.
Absolutely. And I know that's something that the Secretary designee Buttigieg has talked about. It's the equity issue. And that's something which, as engineers, we're starting to talk about a little bit more as well, because we design space, the built environment, and how that built environment is designed really predetermines how people interact. So if you're able to create a more, design a more open space, a more accessible space, you're able to break down some of those barriers. And that's something which the industry wants to help, the incoming, the secretary and the department and the Biden administration figure out, and provide the expertise that American industry, American businesses have to create solutions to these challenges. And it's one of those things that it's the kind of the perfect marriage. You have American ingenuity, American industry, free enterprise, and you have a national issue. And I think together, we can do it. But we can't be quiet about it. You're right. We have to be loud about it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And this is our time. This is our opportunity. We know that people sometimes question, why do I go to Washington? Why do I talk to my elected leaders? We get frustrated because sometimes it does take time, but sometimes the best things take a while to get to. Engineers more than most people would understand that. And again, we're right there at the precipice of getting something substantial done. So we really appreciate the partnership with ACEC, the engineering community, because you all have played a critical role in defining what can be done, defining the opportunities, and providing reasonable solutions to how we can get this done.
Absolutely. Well, for all of our members who are listening, you go to the U.S. Chamber's website, uschamber.com, and the website is uschamber.com/Let's Rebuild America, Let's-Rebuild-America, and it will take you to a number of resources that you can use to help amplify your voice and to get behind this movement, because it's we need to seize this opportunity. We got close last time. We have a deadline. FAST Act extension is not going to last forever. We've got September. This is an opportunity for a long-term transformative infrastructure bill to get through Congress that is forward-looking, doesn't just address the challenges and deficiencies that we have today, but will address those future challenges that we have to tackle. So really encourage everyone to check out the website, follow the Chamber on social media. Ed can be found at Chamber Moves on Twitter, and help amplify the message.
Great. Well, again, appreciate this opportunity, and good luck, everyone. Let's get this done together.
Great. Thanks, Ed, and happy birthday again.
Thank you.
And again, this has been the Government Affairs Update, the third in our series. Catch us every week at this time, every Friday. This has been the Government Affairs Update for January 22nd, 2021. We'll see you next time. Stay safe. The ACEC Research Institute recently released the groundbreaking 2020 Engineering Industry Profile. Now, this study provides the most comprehensive view we have ever seen for the entire engineering, architectural, and related services sectors. We're talking 3% of all U.S. jobs, $386 billion in revenue, nearly $45 billion in tax dollars, and $88,000 a year average salary, and so much more. The study also benchmarks state-level activities. Now take the opportunity to download your free copy today. Get the 2020 Engineering Industry Profile by visiting acecresearchinstitute.org. Download your copy today.